Hello everyone, welcome back to Review and Rate. Today, we're entering into a world of dead pirates and skilled explorers. That's right, we are going to climb these high areas and escape from this armored vehicle while shooting at it to talk about Uncharted 4: A Thief's End, a game developed by Naughty Dog and released in 2016. If you're a fan of long playthroughs, puzzle solving, and interesting stories, you won't want to miss this review. Now, let's take down these soldiers and get ready to enter the world of Uncharted 4. Uncharted 4 provides great gameplay with some issues. I first want to say that I haven't played the first 3 Uncharted games, and that's because they are not available on PC. So, I bought the Uncharted Legacy of Thieves collection, which includes Uncharted 4: A Thief's End and Uncharted The Lost Legacy, making this my first Uncharted experience. Since I'm not familiar with how the previous games play, I will mainly focus on this game while going into it without any prior knowledge of the series, and overall, I enjoyed it a lot. The movement system is simple and smooth, with Nathan Drake being able to walk, run, and crouch automatically. This works well because it keeps the gameplay fast and fluid instead of constantly forcing the player to press extra buttons for basic actions. It makes traversing environments feel more natural and cinematic, which fits the overall style of the game. However, one major issue is the running mechanic. Since you cannot manually sprint whenever you want, Nathan often moves frustratingly slow, especially in large open areas where the game expects you to explore for long periods of time. In a game with such massive environments, this can sometimes make traversal feel unnecessary, time-consuming, and drag down the pacing. Exploration, on the other hand, is one of the strongest aspects of the game. The levels are filled with treasures, optional collectibles, and story-related details that Nathan records in his journal, making exploration consistently rewarding and enjoyable. The environments encourage curiosity, and there's almost always something interesting hidden off the main path. The game also does a great job guiding the player without becoming overly intrusive. Objects that can be interacted with are clearly marked, making progression smoother and reducing unnecessary frustration when searching for items or figuring out what to do next. If you still get stuck, the game occasionally provides subtle hints or directions so you don't spend too much time wandering around aimlessly. Another major part of the gameplay is climbing, which is heavily integrated into progression. Many sections require you to carefully observe the environment and figure out where to climb next. Climbing itself feels fluid and satisfying because you can freely move Nathan's hands across ledges and surfaces while scaling large structures for extended periods of time. It keeps traversal engaging instead of repetitive. The game also adds variety to these sequences. Sometimes your companion helps you reach higher places, while other times you need to move objects such as boxes to create a path forward. In addition, the grappling hook introduces some of the most fun traversal moments in the game, allowing you to swing across gaps or use climbing spikes to move between rocky surfaces. These mechanics make traversal feel dynamic and cinematic throughout the adventure. Saving is another area where the game performs extremely well. Manual saving is simple and straightforward, while the automatic checkpoint system is excellent. The game rarely forces you to replay large sections after dying, which keeps the pacing smooth and prevents unnecessary frustration. Outside of exploration and climbing, the game features many puzzles that range from simple to surprisingly challenging. Most of them require careful observation and logical thinking, making them enjoyable to solve. The journal is especially useful because it provides hints and clues without immediately giving away the answer, allowing the player to still feel rewarded for figuring things out on their own. The game's level design is very well done, especially in how it consistently changes gameplay scenarios across its massive environments. The variety of locations and set pieces helps keep the experience fresh from beginning to end. The adventure starts with the intense boat sequence, where you move across the ship while fighting enemies, taking cover, and shooting whenever you get the opportunity. It's a strong opening that immediately throws you into the action. The game also includes multiple flashback sections. One of them follows a young Nathan and his brother Sam escaping from the orphanage, focusing mainly on climbing and traversal mechanics. Another flashback later in the game has you escaping from police officers who clearly needed more training, adding a lighter and more entertaining tone to the backstory sequences. There are also a couple of prison fistfights that are decent enough, followed by the prison escape sequence where enemies relentlessly shoot at you as you try to survive and break out. Right after that, the game transitions into a very memorable intro sequence. Later on, the pacing slows down a bit with an underwater section where you recover crates from beneath the water and transport them back to the ship. It's a calmer moment compared to the chaos of the action scenes. One surprisingly funny moment comes when you randomly played Crash Bandicoot. It felt unexpected, but also entertaining and memorable at the same time. As for other fistfights, the encounters with Nadine are easily some of the weakest parts of the game. At different points, Nathan fights her alone, and later Nathan and Sam fight her together, but both encounters suffer from the same issue. You already know you are scripted to lose. Because of that, the fights feel boring, predictable, and ultimately pointless. Even with Sam helping you, losing so easily removes most of the tension or excitement from those scenes. The game later introduces a driving section where you navigate a muddy environment with a vehicle, which I found somewhat annoying. However, it's followed by one of the game's best action sequences, where you rush to save your brother while escaping from a massive armored vehicle, leading to an explosive and satisfying finale to that section. Another memorable gameplay segment involves piloting a boat across multiple islands while searching for the correct destination. After finally reaching the right island, the game throws you into yet another over-the-top action sequence where enemies attack you while you are climbing through the environment, creating a tense mix of traversal and combat. Later, you drive alongside Nathan's wife Elena, while transporting a vehicle and dealing with enemy attacks along the way. This eventually leads into one of the game's strongest sections, an incredible cave area packed with deadly traps that explode when you get too close, all while enemies are trying to kill you. The combination of environmental hazards and combat makes this section especially intense and fun. The finale continues the game's tradition of massive cinematic set pieces, featuring a large-scale battle and escape sequence inside a location filled with pirate ships. It's chaotic, over the top, and visually impressive, making for a very strong final action segment. Finally, the game ends with a sword fight against Rafe, which was easily the best fight in the entire game. Unlike the Nadine encounters, this battle actually requires strategy and timing. You need to pay attention to his attack patterns, defend yourself, look for openings, and strike when you have the chance. Because of that, the fight feels engaging, satisfying, and genuinely fun to play. Then we get to the combat, which is one of the strongest gameplay elements in the entire game, especially the stealth sections, which I personally enjoyed the most. The shooting mechanics feel satisfying because combat is not just about aiming and firing at enemies. You can also shoot while staying behind cover, allowing firefights to feel more dynamic and cinematic while still giving you protection from enemy attacks. This makes encounters much more engaging compared to simply standing in the open and shooting. Stealth is where the gameplay shines the most. Enemies have a detection indicator that warns you when they are about to spot you, even if they are not directly visible on the screen. This mechanic is extremely useful because it helps you react quickly and avoid getting caught. The stealth takedowns are also very well animated, with multiple kill animations depending on the enemy's position and your approach angle. This variety keeps stealth encounters entertaining instead of repetitive.
What's that?
One issue I had with the stealth system, however, is the inability to hide bodies. Sometimes I would silently eliminate enemies only for another guard to discover the body later, instantly putting the entire area on alert and forcing me out of stealth. It's not a major problem, but still something that could have improved the stealth mechanics further. Another disappointment is the overall amount of combat in the game. While the combat itself is very enjoyable, especially the stealth encounters, there simply are not enough of them. A large portion of the game focuses on climbing, puzzle solving, and exploration, while actual combat sections are relatively limited. I personally would have liked the game to include more action and stealth gameplay to better balance the pacing. The weapon variety is also solid, giving you access to many different guns that are useful against the game's multiple enemy types, including heavily armored opponents who carry different weapons themselves. This variety helps keep combat encounters fresh throughout the game. Even though the game strangely lacks silenced weapons, explosives such as grenades and dynamite are still extremely useful and satisfying to use. Throwing explosives at enemies while they try to locate your position adds a chaotic and fun element to combat encounters.
Go, 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 go! Dynamite! Dynamite! What?
The enemy AI is surprisingly good as well. Even on moderate difficulty, which is the difficulty I played on, enemies constantly try to pressure you by attacking from difficult angles, forcing you to move around instead of staying freely behind cover forever. They also throw grenades at you whenever you remain hidden for too long, making fights feel more aggressive and challenging. The friendly AI is also well designed. Your companions are capable of defending themselves effectively and quickly following you during traversal sections, especially while climbing. Because of that, they rarely feel annoying or like a burden during gameplay. One issue I unfortunately experienced throughout the game was the amount of crashes and screen freezes. I am not sure if this is specifically a problem with the Uncharted Legacy of Thieves Collection version on PC, but it was still a noticeable issue during my playthrough. These issues were relatively minor overall, but still worth mentioning. Now let's talk about the story. The story of Uncharted 4 is good overall, but does have some noticeable problems. What I enjoyed most about the narrative is the mystery surrounding the lost pirate treasure. Learning about the pirates, whether through the environments themselves or through the documents and notes scattered throughout the game, was genuinely interesting. Slowly discovering what happened to them, the conflicts between them, and the treasure they were all fighting over added a strong sense of mystery and adventure to the story. What makes the narrative even more interesting is how Nathan and the others are essentially repeating history in the modern day. Just like the pirates before them, they are risking everything to find the same treasure, creating parallels between the past and present throughout the journey. The relationship between Nathan and Sam is one of the strongest parts of the story. They genuinely feel like real brothers because of how naturally they interact with each other despite having different personalities. Their conversations feel believable, entertaining, and emotional at times, making their relationship easy to care about. Victor Sullivan is also a very likable character. He works well as the experienced partner who helps Nathan and Sam throughout their mission, and his presence adds charm and humor to many scenes. Rafe is a solid villain as well. I especially liked his interactions with the main characters because his rivalry with Nathan feels personal instead of generic. His obsession with finding the treasure and proving himself gives him believable motivations throughout the story. Nadine, on the other hand, is just okay. She mainly serves as a strong fighter character, but outside of that, I did not find her particularly interesting. To be fair, the game does show that she has disagreements with Rafe, especially regarding the reckless way he gets his men killed, and those moments add at least some depth to her character. Still, compared to the others, she felt less compelling overall. Another issue I had with Nadine is how the game constantly tries to prove how strong she is by having her easily defeat Nathan in combat twice. Even though I haven't played the previous 3 games, it's obvious that Nathan is highly experienced and capable in fights. Because of that, seeing him barely put up any resistance against her felt forced and unrealistic to me. Now, when it comes to the problems with the story, one major issue is the amount of filler scenes. The dialogue throughout the game is genuinely well written, and I enjoyed listening to the characters talk because the conversations themselves are engaging. However, since the game contains a huge number of cutscenes, there are several moments that felt unnecessary and dragged the pacing down. Some scenes simply felt like they existed to stretch the game longer rather than meaningfully develop the story. Another thing that personally did not work for me was the relationship scenes between Nathan and Elena. I understand the importance of the relationship to the story, and objectively, it's written as a healthy and believable relationship. However, I just didn't enjoy most of their scenes together. Whenever they were interacting on screen or during missions, the conversations often felt awkward and somewhat cringeworthy to me. In comparison, I found the scenes between Nathan and Sam far more entertaining and emotionally engaging. The story also suffers from several frustratingly stupid decisions made by the characters. One example is Rafe killing the prison guard who was helping them, which immediately leads to a massive shootout and ultimately causes Nathan to lose Sam for 15 years. It felt like an unnecessary reckless decision that created problems for everyone involved. The biggest issue, however, is Nathan hiding the truth from Elena. Going on an extremely dangerous mission that could easily get him killed while refusing to tell his wife the truth already feels irresponsible enough, but hiding the fact that he even has a brother makes the situation even worse. It made Nathan come across as either a terrible husband or a character written to act irrationally purely for the sake of creating drama in the story. But to summarize the story, it follows retired treasure hunter Nathan Drake, who has settled into a quieter and more normal life with his wife, Elena Fisher. After years of surviving dangerous adventures involving thieves, mercenaries, and lost civilizations, Nathan appears to have finally left that world behind. Everything changes when Nathan's older brother, Sam Drake, suddenly returns after being presumed dead for many years. Sam explains that he escaped prison but now owes a massive debt to a dangerous crime lord named Hector Alcazar. Wanting to save his brother, Nathan agrees to come out of retirement and go on one final treasure hunting adventure. The two brothers begin searching for the legendary treasure of pirate Henry Avery, which is believed to be hidden somewhere within the lost pirate colony of Libertalia. Along the journey, they reunite with Nathan's longtime partner Victor Sullivan, also known as Sully, while competing against wealthy treasure hunter Rafe Adler and mercenary leader Nadine Ross, who are both searching for the same treasure. The adventure takes the characters across multiple locations, including Italy, Scotland, Madagascar, and the ruins connected to the pirates. As the story progresses, the tension between Nathan and Elena continues to grow because Nathan secretly returned to the dangerous lifestyle he promised to leave behind. Because of this, the narrative slowly becomes less about the treasure itself and more about obsession, family, trust, and learning when to let go. Near the climax of the story, Nathan discovers that Sam lied to him the entire time. Alcazar was actually dead, meaning Sam manipulated Nathan into joining the adventure because he himself could not move on from the treasure hunt. At the same time, Rafe's obsession with proving himself reaches its peak, eventually allowing him to reach the treasure first. This leads to the final confrontation aboard a burning pirate ship, where Nathan defeats Rafe in a sword fight while the treasure is ultimately destroyed in the chaos. In the end, Nathan finally chooses his family over his obsession with adventure. He reconciles with Elena, and the two decide to continue exploring the world together, but in a healthier and more balanced way. Now let's move on to the graphics. The graphics of Uncharted 4 are absolutely amazing and still hold up extremely well to this day. The environments and character models are incredibly detailed and realistic, to the point where it's easy to forget that this game originally released in 2016. Character animations, facial expressions, lighting, and environmental detail all come together to create a visually impressive experience that still competes with many modern games. One of the strongest aspects of the visuals is simply how beautiful the locations are. Every area you visit feels carefully crafted, from lush jungle environments to ancient ruins and detailed coastal landscapes. It's honestly one of those games where you sometimes stop just to look around and appreciate the scenery, because everything is so well designed and visually striking. Now let's talk about the sound. The sound design of Uncharted 4 is excellent and plays a huge role in making the experience feel immersive and cinematic. The voice acting is phenomenal across the board, with every main character delivering strong and believable performances. The emotions and conversations feel natural, and the chemistry between characters really comes through in how they speak to each other, which helps make the story more engaging. The environmental audio is also very well done. Wherever you travel in the world, the game does a great job of making each location feel alive through sound. From subtle ambient noises to the chaos of combat, everything sounds grounded and realistic, adding to the immersion of each scene. The soundtrack is just as impressive. It adapts perfectly to whatever is happening on screen, whether it's exploration, tension, or high action moments. The music enhances the mood without ever feeling out of place, and helps elevate many of the game's most memorable scenes. Now let's move on to the final section, which is replayability. When it comes to replayability, Uncharted 4 offers a solid amount of content and multiple ways to revisit the experience in different ways. You can replay the game through New Game Plus mode, where your previously collected treasures and progress carry over into your next playthrough, making it more rewarding to revisit the story while also giving you a reason to experiment with different approaches. There are also 5 difficulty options available, allowing you to tailor the experience however you want. This makes it easy to challenge yourself further on a second playthrough, especially if you started on a lower difficulty like moderate and want to test your skills on harder settings later on. In addition, the game includes chapter select and encounter select features, which let you replay specific moments or combat sections without having to restart the entire game. This is great for revisiting your favorite sequences or improving your performance in certain areas. The treasure system also adds to replay value. Collectibles you find throughout the game reward you with points, which can then be used to unlock extras such as character models, concept art, and other bonus content. These points can also be used to unlock render mods and gameplay modifiers, which significantly change how you replay the game. For example, you can enable filters or activate gameplay changes like infinite ammo, which makes experimenting with different playstyles or simply having fun in a relaxed run much more enjoyable. Now let's summarize everything with my overall impression. Uncharted 4 delivers great gameplay, a good story, amazing graphics, excellent sound design, and strong set of replayability options that add real value beyond a single playthrough. While there are some gameplay issues and certain story decisions that feel questionable or poorly handled, these problems don't significantly take away from how enjoyable the overall experience is or how consistently impressive the game looks and feels from start to finish. As I mentioned earlier, I hadn't played the first 3 games in the series, but even without that background, I was still very impressed by how strong this entry is on its own. It manages to deliver a complete, cinematic and highly entertaining adventure, which is why it deserves this score. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more insightful review videos. Feel free to share your thoughts on whether the points I've raised resonate with you or if you have a different perspective, and leave your suggestions in the comments about which game you'd like to see reviewed next. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video and thank you all for watching.